Saitama had been chasing a particularly annoying monster through downtown when his fist connected with something that felt wrong. Not physically wrong, the creature exploded as expected, painting the street in unidentifiable gore, but reality itself seemed to hiccup. The air cracked like glass, space folded inward with a sound that wasn't a sound, a sensation that bypassed his ears entirely and registered directly in his skull as wrongness made manifest. Then he was falling through colors that had no names and geometries that hurt to perceive. The warp is not meant for mortal minds. It is the realm of souls and nightmares, where the psychic screams of quadrillions of sentient beings coalesce into seas of raw emotion and predatory consciousness. Demons gestate in its currents. Gods wage eternal war across its non-Euclidean battlefields. Time flows backward and forward simultaneously. Physics is a polite suggestion that reality occasionally remembers to follow. Saitama experienced approximately 3 seconds of this impossible place before his fist instinctively lashed out at the sensation of something trying to touch his mind. The punch created a shockwave of pure kinetic force that shouldn't exist in a realm without physical laws. The warp recoiled. 4 vast intelligences, ancient beyond human comprehension, powerful enough to shatter suns with their attention, turned toward this impossible disturbance. Then the fabric of reality spat him out like a bad meal, ejecting him from the immaterium through a wound in space that screamed as it tore open. He crashed through 600 meters of Gothic architecture, pulverizing rockreet and plasteel, before hitting the ground of a hive-world street with enough force to create a crater 30 meters wide. Dust and debris rained down. Somewhere in the distance, air raid sirens wailed their eternal song of warning. Saitama stood up, brushed rockcrete dust from his yellow suit and red cape, both somehow immaculate despite the dimensional journey, and looked around with his characteristic expression of mild confusion. The sky above was wrong. Not the clean blue he knew, but a roiling mass of purple and crimson shot through with green lightning. The air tasted of copper and burning promethium. The buildings surrounding him rose like cathedral mountains, each one a brutalist monument to industrial capacity stretched across kilometers. Flying buttresses the size of highway overpasses connected structures that disappeared into the polluted clouds above. Gargoyles the size of tanks leered from every corner, their stone eyes seeming to follow movement. Gothic script covered every surface. High Gothic prayers to someone called the Emperor. Warnings about heresy, production quotas measured in millions. "Huh," Saitama said. "This isn't the supermarket." That's when the screaming started. Not human screaming, though that came soon after, but a sound that tore at the soul. Reality split open 200 meters above the street in a wound of purple-black energy. Things poured through, humanoid shapes wrapped in rotting flesh that moved with its own volition. Creatures with too many limbs and mouths where mouths shouldn't be. Lesser demons. The cannon fodder of Nurgle's endless legions manifested into reality with the stench of disease made manifest. Behind them came something bigger. The great unclean one squeezed through the rift like obscene childbirth, a mountain of diseased flesh that laughed with genuine joy as it brought Papa Nurgle's gifts to the mortal realm. Flies the size of human heads orbited its bulk. Its belly distended with the bloat of 1,000 plagues. A single eye, yellowed and weeping pus, focused on the street below where millions of Imperial citizens screamed and ran and died as the demon tide descended. Saitama watched a family, father, mother, 2 children, get overtaken by Nurglings 20 meters away. The parents died quickly. The children would take longer. He saw an old woman pulled apart by laughing demons who found genuine amusement in mortal suffering. He saw a young man in the tattered uniform of the Astra Militarum, Try to stand and fight with a laser gun that clicked empty before he was dragged screaming into the horde. His face remained expressionless, but his fist clenched. "Hey," Saitama called out. His voice carried despite the apocalyptic din, cutting through demonic laughter and dying screams with the casual tone of someone mildly annoyed. "That's not cool." The Great Unclean One's attention swiveled toward this strange, bald human standing in a crater, apparently unafraid. The demon's laughter deepened, genuinely delighted by the mortal's foolishness. "Little one," it gurgled, voice thick with phlegm and genuine affection. Nurgle's demons truly loved their victims. "Grandfather Nurgle welcomes you to his garden. Would you like to embrace his gifts? The pain ends in rot. Suffering becomes joy. Death is merely transformation." Saitama tilted his head slightly. "No thanks. I'm kind of in the middle of grocery shopping." Then he jumped. The leap carried him 300 meters straight up in a single bound, cape fluttering behind him. The demon barely had time to register this impossible movement before Saitama drew his fist back, not even his serious punch, just a normal one, and drove it forward into the Great Unclean One's face with casual force. Normal punch. The demon exploded, not died, not dispersed back to the warp, exploded. The kinetic force traveled through its diseased flesh faster than the sound barrier, liquidizing every molecule instantaneously. The shockwave radiated outward in a perfect sphere, vaporizing every lesser demon within a 100-meter radius and creating a pressure wave that shattered windows across 3 city blocks. The warp rift above flickered, destabilized by the sudden removal of the anchor demon, then collapsed with a sound like reality sighing in relief. Chunks of rapidly evaporating demon flesh rained down, dissipating into smoke before hitting the ground. The nurgling swarms shrieked and popped like bubbles as the connection to their realm severed. Within seconds, the demonic incursion was over. Saitama landed in the same crater he'd started in, cape settling around his shoulders. "Okay," he said to no one in particular. The surviving citizens, thousands who had been running, hiding, praying to the Emperor for salvation, slowly emerged from cover. They stared at the bald man in the yellow suit, standing in a crater surrounded by rapidly dissipating demon essence. An entire chaos incursion ended in 3 seconds by one punch from a confused-looking human. Somewhere in the distance, a single voice began chanting, "The Emperor protects! The Emperor protects!" Others joined. Within moments, thousands of voices rose in prayer, praising the Emperor for sending his angel. Saitama scratched his head, supremely uncomfortable with the attention. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. High above the hive world, in the strategium of an inquisitorial vessel that had been monitoring the incursion, Inquisitor Cassian Volk watched the pick feed replay for the 3rd time. His cybernetic eye whirred as it magnified and analyzed the impossible footage. "Get me a teleportarium lock on that location," he said quietly. "And prepare a full containment team. Whatever that is, we need it secured before the ruinous powers realize what just walked into our galaxy." The Emperor's angels descended 3 hours after Saitama won the fight. In that time, the confused hero had wandered approximately 4 city blocks through the Underhive, searching for anything that resembled a store. What he found instead was a nightmare of industrial poverty that made his old apartment complex look like luxury housing. Millions of people crammed into spaces designed for thousands, entire families living in corridors, children with eyes too old for their faces sorting scrap metal with bleeding hands, the air thick with the smell of recycled corpse starch and machine oil, prayer graffiti covering every surface. "The Emperor protects," Only in death does duty end. Blessed is the mind too small for doubt. Saitama had seen poverty before. This was different. This was poverty as system, as theology, as the natural state of existence. These people didn't hope for better. They prayed for the strength to endure until death. "This place sucks," he muttered, stepping over a gutter running with industrial runoff that probably violated every health code ever written. A child approached, couldn't have been more than 8, face smudged with ash, wearing rags held together with wire. She held out a tin cup with trembling hands. "Alms for the God Emperor's faithful," she whispered. Saitama stared at her for a long moment. He patted his pockets, found nothing. He'd left his wallet in the other dimension. "Sorry, kid, fresh out of cash." The girl's face fell, but she nodded and shuffled away. Saitama watched her go, his perpetually bored expression flickering for just a moment into something harder to read. That's when the sky lit up with teleportarium lightning. 6 columns of energy materialized in the street, each one resolving into an armored giant that made the surrounding humans look like children. Space Marines, specifically Adeptus Astartes from the Ultramarines chapter, their armor the famous blue of Guilliman's sons, trimmed with gold. Each one stood over 2 meters tall in power armor, their helmets featuring the characteristic Roman-style crests. Bolt rifles, 1075 caliber gyrojet weapons capable of punching through tank armor, were held in ready positions. The civilians screamed and scattered. Space Marines meant war. Their presence indicated threats beyond normal Imperial Guard capacity. The Ultramarines formed a perimeter around Saitama with practiced efficiency. He looked up at them with mild curiosity, like someone encountering an interesting statue. "Target acquired," the lead Marine voxed. His armor bore the markings of a sergeant. Unarmored human male, bald yellow attire, matches picked captures from the incident. No visible augmetics, no psychic signature registering, awaiting further orders. "I'm standing right here," Saitama said. "You know I can hear you, right?" The sergeant's helmet turned toward him. Behind the red lenses, genetically enhanced eyes studied this impossible civilian. "You are to accompany us for questioning regarding the incident at Sector 7 Gamma. Compliance is not optional." "Questioning about what?" "You destroyed a greater demon of Nurgle with your bare hands. You are either the most potent, unsanctioned psyker this sector has seen in 3 centuries, a Xenos infiltrator of unknown classification, or something else entirely. The Inquisition will determine which." The sergeant's hand moved fractionally toward his bolt pistol. "Will you comply?" Saitama scratched his head. "I mean, I didn't really do anything special. There was a monster, I punched it. Isn't that pretty normal?" The Ultramarines exchanged glances behind their helmets. Private vox chatter flickered between them, confusion, disbelief, and the beginnings of threat assessment protocols. "No," the sergeant said flatly. "It is not normal. Greater demons have laid waste to entire Space Marine companies. They are creatures of the warp itself, manifestations of the Dark God's will, capable of destroying titans. You obliterated one with a single unarmed strike and showed no signs of psychic exertion, warp taint, or demonic corruption." His voice hardened. "So I will ask once more. Will you comply?" Saitama shrugged. "Sure, I guess. Not like I have anywhere else to be. Do you guys know where the grocery store is?" Before the sergeant could respond to this baffling question, his vox crackled. "Sergeant Tarsus, be advised, target is not to be harmed. Inquisitor Volk wants him intact for examination. Teleportarium extraction in 30 seconds. "Understood." Tarsus gestured to his squad. They maintained their perimeter, but weapons lowered fractionally, still ready but no longer actively threatening. You will be transported to an inquisitorial vessel in orbit. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." "Okay," Saitama said agreeably. The Ultramarines seemed genuinely unsettled by his complete lack of concern. These were Space Marines, the Emperor's Angels of Death. And this unaugmented human was treating them like slightly inconvenient transit security. The teleportarium activated. Reality folded, and suddenly Saitama was somewhere else. The interrogation chamber was exactly what one would expect from the Inquisition. Gothic excess meets surgical precision. The walls were adorned with devotional script and purity seals. A massive golden aquila, the two-headed eagle of the Imperium, dominated one wall. The other walls featured various implements whose purposes Saitama preferred not to contemplate. A single chair sat in the center, bolted to the floor, with restraints built into the arms. Saitama sat in it voluntarily. The restraints remained open. He'd been there for 3 hours while various officials argued in the adjacent chamber. He could hear them through the walls. Even though they thought the room was soundproofed. Cannot possibly be human. The strength readings are no warp signature whatsoever. Even blanks register something. He's just nothing. Suggesting he's some kind of Xenos infiltrator. Scans show baseline human DNA. No augmetics, no genocide, no chaos taint. He's cleaner than most Imperial citizens. Finally, the door opened. Inquisitor Cassian Volk entered, and Saitama understood immediately that this was someone who'd seen things that broke people. The Inquisitor's left side was heavily augmented. Cybernetic eye, arm replaced with archaeotech, cables running into his skull. His right side remained human, scarred by what looked like acid or warp burns. His coat bore the rosette of the Inquisition, the symbol that granted him authority to order entire worlds destroyed. He studied Saitama with his mismatched eyes, one human, one mechanical, for a long moment. "You are an impossibility," Volk said quietly. "In 40 years of service to the Holy Ordos, I have encountered demons, Xenos abominations, and horrors that would shatter mortal sanity. You are the first thing I've met that genuinely defies categorization." He pulled a data slate from his coat. "The footage shows you punching a great unclean one hard enough to liquefy it instantaneously. Auspex readings registered a kinetic force equivalent to a Titan's plasma cannon, yet you display no psychic signature, no chaos corruption, no Xenos biological markers. You are, by every test we can perform, an unaugmented human male." Saitama nodded. "Yeah, that sounds right. That is impossible." "If you say so." Volk's human eye twitched. "What are you?" "A hero," Saitama said with complete sincerity. The Inquisitor stared at him for 10 full seconds. Then, to Saitama's surprise, he laughed, short, bitter but genuine. "A hero? In the Imperium of Man, we have soldiers, we have warriors, we have the Emperor's angels. We do not have heroes. Heroes belong in children's stories from before Old Night." He leaned forward. "Where did you come from?" Somewhere else, I think. I was chasing a monster, punched it, and then I was falling through this really weird place with colors that hurt. Then I crashed through a building and there were more monsters, so I punched those too." Saitama frowned slightly. "Do you know how I can get back? Also, I really need to find a supermarket." Volk studied him intently. The Inquisitor's decades of experience reading interrogation subjects told him something critical. This man was telling the truth. He genuinely had no idea where he was or how he'd arrived. More troublingly, he genuinely didn't understand that what he'd done was impossible. "You came through the warp," Volk said slowly. "The Immaterium, the realm of souls and demons. No human survives unprotected warp exposure. It would drive you mad, corrupt your soul, or simply dissolve your consciousness into the sea of souls." He gestured at Saitama's pristine condition. Yet you show no corruption, no madness. You're asking about supermarkets. I was out of vegetables, Saitama explained. The Inquisitor rubbed his temples with his human hand. This is either the Emperor's greatest miracle or the most elaborate infiltration I've encountered. He made a decision. You will remain in custody pending further investigation. If you are what you appear, an impossibly powerful, unaugmented human, then you represent a resource the Imperium cannot ignore. If you are something else, his hand moved to the bolt pistol at his hip, then you will be eliminated as a threat to humanity's survival. Cool, Saitama said. Can I get something to eat while we figure this out? I haven't eaten since breakfast. The tests lasted 6 days. Saitama cooperated with everything because he genuinely had nothing better to do. Tech priests from the Adeptus Mechanicus ran him through scanning arrays that would have reduced baseline humans to ash. Medicae teams drew blood samples with needles that shattered against his skin until they brought diamond-tipped industrial mining equipment. Sanctioned psychers probed for any trace of warp sensitivity. Combat servitors, lobotomized cyborg slaves, attacked him with various weapons to test his durability. The results were conclusive. Saitama was impossible. His biology was baseline human in every way that could be measured, yet he possessed strength that exceeded Imperial records for any unaugmented being. He tanked a Laskinen shot that should have vaporized him and complained it tickled. He bent ceramite with his bare hands. He casually lifted a dreadnought, a tank-sized combat walker containing the mortally wounded body of an ancient space marine, to see if it needed help moving. The dreadnought's occupant, a 600-year-old veteran of the Horus Heresy, had simply stated, "I have witnessed miracles and horrors across 6 centuries of war. You are the strangest thing I have encountered." The Mechanicus declared him either an STC construct miracle or tech heresy given flesh. The sanctioned psychers confirmed no warp presence beyond the minimal soul glow all living beings possessed. The Inquisition's testing grew increasingly desperate as they failed to find any explanation. On the 7th day, Inquisitor Volk made his report to someone significantly more important. The hololithic display materialized in the strategium, and everyone in the room immediately dropped to one knee. Everyone except Saitama, who was sitting in the corner eating corpse starch rations and trying not to think too hard about their name or origin. The hologram showed a figure in ornate armor the color of Macragge blue and ultramar gold. Even as a projection, the presence was overwhelming, the weight of genetic superiority, 10,000 years of war, and the literal blood of the Emperor flowing through engineered veins. A demigod made flesh, one of 20 sons crafted by humanity's greatest genius to lead mankind's reconquest of the galaxy. Robot Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, Lord Commander of the Imperium. The avenging son returned from death, studied the assembled officers with eyes that had witnessed the Imperium's birth, and now saw its death throes. "Rise," Guilliman said, voice carrying absolute authority. "Inquisitor Volk, your report indicated an anomaly requiring my direct assessment. I trust you have not wasted my time with speculation. My Lord Primarch, I would not presume." Volk activated his own data slate, projecting the footage of Saitama's fight. Guilliman watched in silence as the recording showed impossible strength, deployed with casual efficiency. When it finished, the Primarch's expression remained unreadable. Technomancy, Xenos infiltration, warpcraft, all tested and eliminated, my lord. He registers as completely baseline human in every biological scan. No augmetics, no genocide, no warp taint. Yet he possesses strength exceeding any recorded threshold for unaugmented humans by factors we cannot calculate. Volk gestured to where Saitama sat, still eating. "He claims to be from somewhere else. The linguistic analysis suggests he speaks Low Gothic, but with idioms and references we cannot place. His entire existence defies Imperial understanding. Guilliman's eyes found Saitama. The Primarch crossed the room in 3 strides, each movement radiating controlled power. He stopped in front of the seated hero, studying him with the analytical genius that had written the Codex Astartes, the holy text that guided space marine doctrine for 10 millennia. Saitama looked up from his rations. "Oh, hey, you're really tall." The room froze. One did not address a Primarch casually. Several hands moved toward weapons, but Guilliman raised a hand to forestall any response. "Stand," the Primarch commanded. Saitama stood, cape settling around his shoulders. He was dwarfed by Guilliman's enhanced physique. The Primarch towered over him by more than half a meter and was 3 times as broad. Yet somehow the bald man in the ridiculous costume didn't seem diminished. "You killed a greater demon with a single punch," Guilliman stated. "Yeah, it was attacking people. Seemed like the right thing to do." "The right thing," Guilliman repeated slowly. His expression shifted. Not quite amusement, but something like recognition of a concept he thought extinct. "When I walked the Imperium during the Great Crusade, we spoke of heroism, individual courage, making choices based on principle rather than necessity. My father," he paused, "the Emperor sought to elevate humanity beyond mere survival, to create a society where heroism mattered." He gestured at the Gothic nightmare surrounding them, the skulls built into every surface, the prayer scripts covering the walls, the crude brutality of a civilization fighting endless war. This is what became of that dream, an Imperium where heroism is heresy unless sanctioned, where individual action is subordinate to Imperial doctrine, where we burn worlds to save sectors and sacrifice billions to buy seconds. Guilliman's voice carried 10,000 years of exhaustion. "We have no heroes. Only soldiers dying in wars they cannot win, on worlds whose names will be forgotten, for an Imperium that barely remembers why it fights." Saitama tilted his head. "That sounds depressing." "It is reality." "Yeah, but depressing reality is still depressing." Saitama scratched his head. "Where I'm from, heroes just help people. It's not complicated. Someone's in trouble, you help. Monsters attack, you punch them. You don't need permission or paperwork or whatever. You just do it because it's the right thing." The room was deathly silent. What Saitama described was borderline heresy, acting without imperial sanction, fighting without oaths to the Emperor, heroism as individual choice rather than ordained duty. Guilliman studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled, bitter and tired but genuine. "You are either the most naive being I've met in 10,000 years, or you represent something I thought lost forever." The Primarch turned to Volk. "What is the strategic situation in this sector?" "Deteriorating, my lord. Chaos warbands raiding from the Great Rift. Orc-Wah! Building momentum in subsector Valdris. 3 hive worlds on the edge of rebellion due to food riots. We're stretched too thin, losing ground across acceptable losses according to Imperial doctrine," Guilliman interrupted, voice hard, "which translates to billions of preventable deaths because we lack the resources to properly defend every front." He looked back at Saitama. "You claim to be a hero. This galaxy will test that claim in ways your previous world could not conceive. The Imperium faces extinction on 1,000 fronts simultaneously. Individual strength, no matter how great, drowns in the scale of war we wage." "Sounds like you need help," Saitama said simply. "What we need is impossible. We need 1,000,000 more worlds, 10 trillion more soldiers, 100 more Primarchs, and the Emperor to walk among us once again. We need the Imperium my father envisioned instead of the theocratic nightmare it became." Gilliman's voice softened fractionally. "But if you genuinely wish to help, I can provide you with more monsters to punch than you could eliminate in 1,000 lifetimes." Saitama's expression, usually bored or blank, shifted into something almost resembling interest. "Really? Really? This galaxy contains horrors beyond counting, demons, Xenos conquerors, traitors who worship dark gods. Any one of them would provide more challenge than the single greater demon you destroyed." Gilliman gestured to the tactical display, showing a galaxy split in half, burning with countless war markers. "If you want to be a hero, there are quadrillions who need saving. If you want worthy opponents, they will find you." For the first time since arriving in this nightmare universe, Saitama's eyes showed a flicker of something other than boredom. "Where do I start?" Gilliman permitted himself a slight smile. "With the Indomitus Crusade. I am leading a galaxy-spanning war to reclaim territory lost to chaos and Xenos incursion. If you fight beside us, you will face threats that make your first encounter look trivial." His eyes hardened. "But understand this. The Imperium is not the heroic force you imagine. We are brutal, we are cruel, and we commit atrocities daily in humanity's name. If you join us, you will witness horrors. You will be asked to make choices with no good options. You may come to hate what we represent." "But you fight monsters," Saitama said. "We are monsters, fighting worse monsters." "Close enough," Saitama shrugged. "I mean, I'm stuck here anyway. Might as well punch things while I figure out how to get home." The first battlefield was a world called Nemesis Tessera, and it was already dying when Saitama arrived. The Thunderhawk gunship carrying him and a combat squad of Ultramarines descended through atmospheric fire, the sky itself burning from orbital bombardment. Through the troop bay's viewports, Saitama watched entire city blocks disappear under land strikes from Navy ships in orbit, vaporizing millions in cleansing fire to deny the enemy's strategic positions. "Is all that really necessary?" he asked, watching another kilometer-wide section of city turn to glass. Brother Sergeant Tarsus, the same Ultramarine who'd first encountered him, checked his bolt rifle's magazine. "The city is already lost. 3 million civilians corrupted by chaos cult activity. Exterminatus protocols have been authorized. But Lord Gilliman wishes to recover the planetary governor's strategic data before full cleansing. Our objective is to extract the information from the Hive Spire command center before the planet burns. What about evacuating the uncorrupted people?" The Ultramarines exchanged glances. "There are no uncorrupted people," Tarsus said flatly. "The corruption has spread too far. Anyone who remains is either dead, transformed, or willingly serving the ruinous powers. Mercy would be wasting ammunition we need for actual combatants." Saitama frowned but said nothing. This was the third world he'd seen burn in 2 weeks since joining the Indomitus Crusade. The scale of slaughter was becoming numbingly routine. The Thunderhawk's boarding ramp dropped and hell greeted them. Nemesis Tessera had been an industrial world, 70 billion workers processing raw materials for the war effort, their lives measured in production quotas and early deaths from pollution exposure. Now it was a chaos-corrupted nightmare. The cultists had been busy. Pentagrams the size of city blocks covered the Hive City's streets, drawn in blood and burning with unnatural fire. Corpses hung from street lamps in ritualistic patterns. Buildings wept viscous fluid that screamed when it touched the ground. And the enemy was everywhere. Chaos cultists emerged from ruins, humans corrupted by forbidden knowledge, their bodies twisted by warp mutation. Some had extra limbs, Others had eyes where eyes shouldn't be. Many were covered in mouths that chanted prayers to gods whose names burned the air. They charged with autoguns, crude melee weapons, and suicidal fury born of absolute faith in powers humanity should never have acknowledged. The Ultramarines opened fire with characteristic precision. Bolter rounds, 75 caliber explosive projectiles, tore through cultist bodies with brutal efficiency. Mass reactive warheads detonated inside flesh, liquefying organs and destroying targets so completely that corpses rarely hit the ground intact. The Space Marines advanced in perfect formation, each shot calculated, each movement economical. 2 magazines, 15 dead cultists. Another burst, 7 more enemies erased from existence. Saitama walked behind them, occasionally swatting aside cultists who got too close. His casual backhand sent bodies flying through walls. A cultist with a chain axe tried to ambush him from above. Saitama caught the blade with 2 fingers, yanked the weapon away, and flicked the cultist in the forehead hard enough to send him sailing 300 meters across the cityscape. "Targets eliminated," Tarsus reported, advancing to objective. They'd penetrated 2 kilometers into enemy territory when the actual threat arrived. The Chaos Space Marines announced themselves with chain axe roars and bolter fire. These weren't cultists. These were Adeptus Astartes who'd fought beside the Emperor 10,000 years ago and chosen damnation over loyalty during the Horus Heresy. Their power armor was corrupted, fused with demonic essence, marked with the 8-pointed star of Chaos Undivided. Each one was a veteran of millennia of war, skills honed across 10,000 years of endless conflict. They crashed into the Ultramarine formation with devastating force. Brother Castus died first. A Chaos Terminator's power fist punched through his chest plate, ceramite cracking like eggshell, before the traitor ripped the Space Marine's primary heart out and crushed it. Brother Valerian lasted 3 seconds longer before a chain axe found the weak point between helmet and gorget, decapitating him in a spray of enhanced blood. The Ultramarines fought back with disciplined fury. Bolt rounds sparked off corrupted armor. Combat knives found gaps in traitor plate. Brother Sergeant Tarsus drove his chainsword through a Chaos Marine's eye lens, the blade's teeth chewing through corrupted ceramite and the skull beneath. Saitama watched the slaughter for approximately 3 seconds. Then he moved. Normal punch. The Chaos Terminator, a 2.5-meter giant in armor weighing over a ton, enhanced by both genocide and demonic corruption, exploded like a water balloon. Armor fragments scattered across the street. The shockwave knocked both loyalists and traitors off their feet. The battlefield froze. Chaos Marines and Ultramarines alike stopped mid-combat, processing what they'd just witnessed. Saitama walked forward, cape fluttering. "Sergeant Tarsus, you said we're in a hurry, right? So let me handle this part." "Wait," Tarsus started. Saitama broke into a jog. Not even his full speed, just a light run. He covered 50 meters in 2 seconds, grabbed a Chaos Marine by the helmet, and slammed him into the rockcrete hard enough to create a crater. The traitor's armor shattered. Saitama moved to the next target, consecutive normal punches. 20 strikes in 2 seconds, each one pulverizing a Chaos Space Marine who'd survived 10 millennia of war. The traitors tried to respond. One fired a plasma pistol at point-blank range. The superheated gas washed over Saitama harmlessly. Another swung a demonic chain axe. The blade shattered on contact with Saitama's bald head. A third activated a melt-a-bomb, preparing to suicide detonate. Saitama plucked it from his hand and threw it straight up, where it detonated harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. 30 seconds later, the entire Chaos Marine warband was dead or fleeing. The Ultramarines stared. Saitama brushed his hands off. Okay, we can keep going now. Brother Sergeant Tarsus approached slowly, his helmet unable to hide his shock. What? How? He shook his head, forcing discipline. You just killed 8 Chaos Space Marines in 30 seconds. Traitor Astartes, veterans of the Long War. Each one has killed hundreds, maybe thousands, across millennia of service to the Dark Gods. They were attacking you guys, Saitama said, and you said we were in a hurry. But Tarsus stopped himself. He'd witnessed impossible things in his service to the chapter. This was simply another impossibility to be categorized and reported. Guilliman was right. You are unlike anything in Imperial records. Is that good or bad? The sergeant considered this. Both. The Imperium does not handle anomalies well. We categorize threats and eliminate them. You cannot be categorized, yet clearly you fight for humanity's survival. He gestured at the path ahead, now clear of enemies. Come, the objective awaits. And I suspect Lord Guilliman will want a full report on whatever you truly are. They continued deeper into the corrupted Hive City, Saitama walking alongside Space Marines who'd begun looking at him with something approaching awe. Above them, the sky continued to burn as the Imperium's warships turned an entire world into a funeral pyre. 70 billion lives erased from existence to prevent chaos from claiming another foothold. Just another day in the Indomitus Crusade. Just another world burning in the Emperor's name. And Saitama was beginning to understand that in this galaxy, heroism looked very different from what he'd known. The command center of the Makrage's honor, Guilliman's flagship, was a cathedral to military precision. Hololithic displays showed the Indomitus Crusade's progress across dozens of sectors. Green markers for reclaimed worlds, red for active conflicts, black for losses. The black markers outnumbered the green 3-1. Saitama stood before the tactical table, watching fleet movements that represented billions of lives. Each icon was a world, each movement a campaign that would consume years and kill millions. The scale was incomprehensible, not because he couldn't understand it intellectually, but because his hero's instinct to save everyone crashed against mathematical impossibility. Guilliman studied the displays with the tired eyes of a demigod watching his father's dream die by inches. This is the reality of the Imperium, Saitama. We are losing. Not today, perhaps not this century, but the trajectory is clear. Chaos expands. Tyranid hive fleets devour entire sectors. Orcs multiply faster than we can exterminate them. Necrons awaken from tombs older than human civilization, and we barely hold the line. So we fight harder, Saitama said simply. With what? Guilliman gestured at the tactical display. Every world we reclaim requires decades of reconquest and purging. Every battle consumes resources we cannot replace. The Imperium is too large to defend and too scattered to unite. My father built an empire spanning 1 million worlds, and now it collapses under its own weight. His fist clenched. Your strength is remarkable, genuinely without precedent in my experience. You killed 8 Chaos Space Marines in 30 seconds. Do you know how long it would take you to eliminate every Chaos Marine in the galaxy at that pace? Saitama shrugged. Centuries, and they reproduce, recruit, and resurrect faster than you could eliminate them. You are one warrior, no matter how powerful, against threats that operate on galactic scale. Guilliman's voice softened fractionally. This is not discouragement. I am explaining why individual heroism, while admirable, cannot save the Imperium. We need systemic solutions, better logistics, reformed doctrine, unified command. One hero cannot save 1 million worlds. Maybe not, Saitama admitted, but I can save the people in front of me right now. Isn't that better than saving nobody? Guilliman studied him for a long moment. My brother Vulcan would have liked you. He believed in protecting individual lives even when strategic doctrine demanded otherwise. The Primarch's expression hardened. He died defending civilians from an orc war, while I calculated acceptable losses. Perhaps he had the right philosophy, and I am simply too broken to remember it. Before Saitama could respond, the Strategium doors opened. An ultramarine captain in Terminator armor entered, his face grim behind his helmet's removed faceplate. My Lord Primarch, we have received distress calls from the Mordian subsector. The world of Sovereign's Fall reports a massive orc incursion. Estimates suggest a exceeding 100 million greenskins. The planetary defense forces are collapsing. They request immediate assistance. Guilliman examined the tactical display, calculating instantly. Sovereign's Fall is a forge world. Population, 80 billion. Strategic value, significant. It produces 70% of the subsector's munitions. However, redirecting fleet elements would leave subsector Valdris vulnerable to the Chaos Warband raiding from the eye. He made a decision with the casualness of one who'd made 10,000 identical choices. We cannot spare the forces. Inform Sovereign's Fall they are to implement scorched earth protocols, destroy all forge facilities, deny the orcs any usable infrastructure, evacuate Mechanicus personnel and senior tech priests. Everyone else... He paused. Everyone else will hold as long as possible to buy time for the evacuation. The captain saluted and turned to leave. Wait, Saitama said. 80 billion people. You're just abandoning them. Guilliman's voice was ice. I am prioritizing resources according to strategic necessity. If I commit fleet elements to save Sovereign's Fall, 3 other worlds will fall to chaos incursion. The mathematics are cruel but clear. I must save who I can, not who I wish to save. So send me. The room went silent. Alone? Guilliman asked. You said I'm one warrior. Let's test what one warrior can actually do. Saitama met the Primarch's gaze without flinching. Worst case, I fail and things end up the same as your plan. Best case, I save 80 billion people you were going to write off. Either way, you don't lose anything you weren't already sacrificing. Guilliman considered this. A war of that magnitude will include multiple war bosses, hundreds of thousands of knobs, and orcs who exist only to fight and kill. They are not demons you can destroy with single punches. There are too many. They will swarm you, drag you down through sheer numbers. Even your strength has limits. Maybe, Saitama said, but I won't know until I try. The Primarch studied him, this impossible anomaly who spoke of heroism like the concept still meant something. Finally, Guilliman nodded. Very well, I will provide you with a single Thunderhawk and a navigation servitor. You will drop directly into the heaviest combat zone. If you succeed, you will have saved more lives in a single engagement than most Space Marine chapters save in a century. His voice hardened. If you fail, your death will be meaningless, and Sovereign's Fall burns regardless. Are you certain? Saitama pulled on his gloves, a habitual gesture he performed before serious fights. For the first time since arriving in this nightmare galaxy, his expression showed something approaching genuine interest. Yeah, it's been a while since I really got to cut loose. 3 hours later, the Thunderhawk's pilot voxed the drop warning. Approaching Sovereign's Fall orbit, descending through Orc fleet perimeter, greenskin fighter craft inbound. This is going to be rough. Saitama stood in the troop bay, alone except for the servitor mindlessly chanting coordinates. Through the viewport, he watched the planet below, a forge world covered in sprawling manufacture rooms, each one the size of a continent, belching smoke into the atmosphere from 10,000 years of continuous production, and covering the surface like a green plague, the orcs, millions of them, perhaps tens of millions visible from orbit. Crude spacecraft, barely functional metal boxes held together by orc belief and scrap welding, swarmed around the planet. Ground forces stormed the hive cities in massive waves, their bestial roars audible even through the void. The Thunderhawk shuddered as orc fighter craft opened fire, crude but effective Daka rounds, orc bullets that worked through sheer volume, hammered the hull. "We're taking heavy fire," the pilot shouted. "I can't guarantee safe landing." "Don't land," Saitama said, walking to the rear ramp. "Just get me close." "Close? We're at 20,000 meters." Saitama hit the ramp release. Atmosphere screamed as the bay depressurized. Below, the planet's surface beckoned, a battlefield containing 100 million orcs and 80 billion humans waiting to die. "This should be fun," Saitama said. Then he jumped. Saitama fell through 20,000 meters of atmosphere, trailing fire from atmospheric friction. Orc fighter craft tried to intercept him, crude aircraft covered in guns and orc glyphs, piloted by greenskins who lived for speed and violence. They opened fire with everything: Daka rounds, missiles, rockets that were essentially explosive-filled tubes with engines. He punched through 3 aircraft on the way down, shattering them like paper. The others broke off, their pilots too surprised by the sight of a human falling without parachute or drop pod to maintain pursuit. The ground rushed up, specifically the front line where the Orc War met Sovereign's Fall's desperate defenders. Saitama calculated his landing trajectory and adjusted slightly, angling toward the thickest concentration of green. He hit the ground at terminal velocity. The impact created a shockwave that flattened everything within 200 meters. Orcs simply disintegrated, vaporized by the pressure wave. Ramshackle orc vehicles, crude trucks called trucks and battle wagons that somehow functioned despite violating every law of physics, were thrown back like toys. The crater was 50 meters wide and 10 meters deep. Saitama stood at the center, completely unharmed, cape settling around his shoulders. Then he looked up at the orc horde, and for the first time in months, he smiled. Orcs are not complicated creatures. They are fungal organisms genetically engineered by long-dead gods to be perfect warriors. They live to fight. They grow larger and stronger the more they fight. Their technology works because they believe it works. Reality bends to orc psychic potential, manifested through absolute conviction. And most importantly, they love a good scrap. The nearest orc, a knob standing 3 meters tall, covered in scrap armor and wielding a chainsaw sword called a chopper, pointed at Saitama and roared in excitement. "Oi, look at the little Humie! He survived the fall. This one's gonna be a proper fight." 100,000 orcs turned towards Saitama. Their collective roar shook the air, pure joy at finding something that might actually hurt them before dying. The closest ones charged immediately, hundreds of greenskins surging forward with weapons raised and battle cries that translated roughly to "Wah!" Saitama cracked his knuckles. Consecutive normal punches. He blurred into motion. An orc isn't easily killed. They are tough, regenerative, and feel almost no pain. It takes multiple bolter rounds to put one down permanently. A space marine might kill 5 or 6 in close combat before being overwhelmed. Guardsmen measure kills in lucky shots and heavy weapons. Saitama killed 300 in 30 seconds. His fists moved faster than human eyes could track, each punch hitting with enough force to liquefy an orc's internal organs, even through their natural durability. He moved through the horde like a bullet, each step covering dozens of meters, each strike ending an orc life. Bodies flew through the air, weapons shattered on contact. The greenskins died faster than they could even register what was killing them. But there were millions more. The Wah surged forward, excited rather than terrified. Orcs don't feel fear the way humans do. Danger just makes fights more fun. Knobs charged in, massive orcs wielding power claws, crude but effective force weapons that crackled with energy. Tank busters fired rockets, missiles that worked through orc belief despite using fuel that shouldn't be flammable. Storm boys descended from the sky on rocket packs that shouldn't function, but did anyway. Saitama jumped straight up, 300 meters in a single bound. Below him, the orc horde stretched to the horizon, a green sea of violence waiting to drown him in numbers. He could see the Forge City's walls in the distance, Imperial defenders fighting desperately against impossible odds, millions of guardsmen dying by the second, their laser guns barely slowing the green tide. Okay, Saitama said to himself, let's try something different. He drew his fist back. Not a normal punch this time, something with actual effort behind it. Serious punch. The fist descended and reality bent. The shockwave traveled outward in a perfect hemisphere, flattening everything for 5 kilometers in every direction. Orcs disintegrated into their component fungal spores. Crude orc vehicles exploded or simply ceased to exist. The ground itself liquefied under the pressure, creating a massive crater that would be visible from orbit. The atmospheric disturbance created winds strong enough to knock over buildings in the Forge City proper. When the dust cleared, roughly 2 million orcs were dead. 98 million remained. Saitama landed in the center of the new crater, slightly disappointed. Usually that kills everything. These guys are tougher than they look. That's when he heard it, a roar that dwarfed all the others combined. On the horizon, something massive was moving toward him. The other orcs were backing away from it, clearing space with uncharacteristic nervousness. The war boss arrived. Orcs grow larger and stronger the more they fight. The biggest orcs lead through sheer size and violence. This war boss had been fighting for decades, maybe centuries, accumulating size and scars and reputation. It stood 20 meters tall, bigger than a Space Marine dreadnought, bigger than most tanks. Its body was a mountain of green muscle, covered in scrap armor welded directly to its flesh. One arm had been replaced with a massive power claw crackling with unstable energy. The other gripped a shooter the size of a building support column. Behind it came its retinue, the biggest, meanest orcs in the war. Each one a veteran of 1,000 battles. The war boss looked at the massive crater Saitama had created. Then it looked at Saitama. Its tiny red eyes gleamed with something approaching intelligence, rare for orcs, but the biggest ones were almost cunning. "Yao's the one killing all me boys," it bellowed, voice like grinding metal. "Yao's tiny, but Yao's strong. This is gonna be a good fight. The best fight." It raised its power claw. "Come on, Den Humi. Show me what you got. Make it proper brutal." The entire war paused, watching. In orc culture, when the war boss fights, everyone else watches. This was a challenge that had to be answered one-on-one. Saitama looked up at the 20-meter-tall mountain of muscle and violence. For the first time since arriving in this galaxy, he felt something like anticipation. "Okay," he said, pulling his glove tighter. "Let's see if you're actually fun to fight." The war boss grinned, a mouth full of iron teeth and genuine joy. "Wah!" it charged, and the ground shook with each step. The power claw descended towards Saitama, capable of tearing through fortress walls. Saitama didn't dodge. He jumped straight up and drove his fist into the war boss's jaw. Normal punch. The war boss's head snapped back. Its massive body stumbled. Then, impossibly, it shook its head and grinned wider. "Ha! That actually hurt. You's a proper fighter." Saitama blinked in surprise. Nothing had survived a normal punch since he'd arrived in this galaxy. "Huh, you're pretty tough. And yao's proper strong for a Humi." The war boss swung its power claw in a massive arc. Saitama caught it with both hands, his feet digging trenches in the ground as the force pushed him back. "This is great. Let's keep going." For the first time in years, Saitama felt something he'd almost forgotten. The thrill of a fight that might actually require effort. The fight lasted 3 minutes, longer than any battle Saitama had experienced since becoming invincible. The war boss wasn't skilled in any technical sense. It just hit things until they stopped moving, which had worked for its entire existence. But it was genuinely durable in ways that defied biology. Saitama's punches, each one carrying enough kinetic force to level city blocks, left bruises and broken bones. But the orc kept fighting. Its regeneration was visible, flesh knitting together between blows. And it was learning. Orcs evolved through combat. Their genetic memory activated, teaching them tactics mid-battle. The war boss started blocking instead of just tanking hits. It feinted with the power claw and followed with the shooter, forcing Saitama to dodge crude bullets that cratered the ground. It even attempted something resembling strategy, trying to grab Saitama and crush him. Saitama, for his part, was having fun. Consecutive normal punches. 20 strikes in 2 seconds, each one driving the war boss back step by step, cracking armor and shattering bones. The orc roared, not in pain, but in joy. "Now we's talking. Hit me harder, Humi," Saitama obliged. He jumped up, level with the war boss's face, drew his fist back and struck with a serious punch aimed directly at its skull. The impact created a thunderclap audible across the continent. The war boss's head snapped back violently, neck bones cracking audibly. Its massive body toppled backward, crashing into the ground hard enough to trigger seismic sensors in the Forge City 20 kilometers away. The watching orcs went silent, a rare and unnatural state for greenskins. Saitama landed, breathing normally, not even winded. He walked toward the fallen war boss, ready to confirm the kill. The orc's eye opened, then it laughed, genuine, delighted laughter that rumbled like an earthquake. "That's the most fun I've had in decades." It tried to sit up, failed, and laughed harder. "Yo's day's strongest Humi I ever fought. Maybe day's strongest anything I ever fought." Blood leaked from its mouth, a mix of red and green, both human and orc biology mixing in its hybrid system. "But you's missing something, Humi." "What?" Saitama asked, genuinely curious. "Joy. You's fight good, but yows don't enjoy it. You's sad." The war boss coughed more blood. Its regeneration was failing. Even orc durability had limits, and Saitama had exceeded them. "What's the point of being strong if you don't have fun with it?" Saitama stared at the dying orc, surprised by the wisdom in something that had spent its entire existence hitting things. "I used to have fun," he admitted quietly, "back when fights were challenging. But I got too strong. Now everything dies in one punch. There's no thrill anymore, no stakes, no joy, like you said. Den you's in the wrong place, Humi." The war boss's voice was weakening, but its grin remained. "This galaxy's full of stuff that'll challenge ya. Daemons that can't really die. Tyrannids that just keep coming. The chaos gods themselves." It laughed wetly. "You's just killed the biggest war boss this sector's seen in a century. The Oath of War Bosses'll hear about ya. They'll come looking for a scrap. And when word gets to the really big ones," its eyes gleamed, "you's gonna get all the challenge ya can handle." "Really?" "Oh yeah. And the Chaos Gits, they're watching you right now. Can't you feel it? The war boss's grin turned knowing. They want ya, Humi. Want to turn ya, break ya, or kill ya. Probably all free. You might finally get that challenge ya's looking for. As if summoned by the words, the sky began to change. The clouds churned, turning from industrial gray to a sickly purple-green. The air itself felt heavier, thicker, like reality was being pressed from the other side. Temperature dropped 20 degrees in seconds, and everyone on the battlefield, orc, human, and Saitama, felt it. The attention of something vast and malevolent turning toward this insignificant world. The war boss stopped laughing. For the first time, something like nervousness crossed its brutal features. Ah, Zogit. I mentioned him, and now they are coming. That's my fault. Sorry, Humi. You was a good scrap. Then the war boss died, its massive body finally surrendering to the accumulated damage. Saitama stood alone as reality tore open. The warp rift manifested directly above the battlefield, a wound in space that bled impossible colors and screamed with voices that predated human language. It was smaller than the massive rifts that consumed star systems, but still large enough to birth horrors. 4 figures emerged, each one representing a different aspect of Chaos's infinite malice. The first was wreathed in flames that burned without heat, a bloodthirster of Khorne, greater demon of the blood god, 4 meters of brass armor and burning rage. Its axe had tasted the blood of saints and heroes across 10,000 years. It existed only to kill. The second constantly shifted shape, never quite solid, a lord of change. Siench's scheming horror, mind containing 1,000 plots and futures. Its very presence bent probability and twisted fate. The third was decay given form, a great unclean one, Nurgle's jovial gift of entropy. Smaller than the one Saitama had killed on arrival, but no less dangerous. Its blessing of immortality through rot, paradoxically harder to kill than its own durability suggested. The fourth was beauty corrupted, a keeper of secrets, Slaaneish's sensory nightmare, moving with impossible grace and wielding claws that promised exquisite agony. 4 greater demons, one of each chaos god, manifested simultaneously. The remaining orcs immediately fled. Even greenskins knew when a fight was unwinnable. The Forge World's defenders, those still alive, stopped firing and simply stared in horror at the apocalypse descending on their world. The Lord of Change spoke, its voice containing harmonics that shouldn't exist. The 4 powers have noticed you, mortal, you who should not exist, you who resist classification, you who possess power without source. The bloodthirster roared, fire exploding from its form. Khorne demands your skull for his throne. The great unclean one chuckled wetly. Grandfather Nurgle wishes to share his gifts. Your body would make a wonderful garden. The Keeper of Secrets smiled, revealing teeth designed to wound souls. Slaanesh craves your sensation. Your emptiness begs to be filled. The Lord of Change continued. We have watched your path through this galaxy. You seek challenge, meaning, purpose. The gods can provide all 3. Join us and know. Battles that span eternity, refuse, and be destroyed. Saitama looked up at the 4 greater demons, each one a manifestation of a god's power, each capable of destroying space marine companies, each promising death or damnation. Let me get this straight, he said slowly. You guys are the ones making all this mess. The corruption, the wars, the people dying. We are the natural state of existence, the Lord of Change replied. Order is the aberration. Chaos is eternal. We simply help the universe return to its true nature. Yeah, that's a no from me. The demons paused, genuinely surprised. Mortals didn't refuse chaos, not when all 4 gods offered power simultaneously. You misunderstand, the Lord of Change said, hints of irritation entering its multi-layered voice. "This is not a request you can decline. You will join us, or you will die here. There are no other options." Saitama pulled on his gloves carefully, the gesture deliberate. His expression, usually bored or blank, shifted into something the demons couldn't quite categorize. Not rage, not fear. Something quieter, but infinitely more dangerous. "I've been watching this galaxy for weeks now," Saitama said. "Seeing worlds burn, watching billions die, listening to people say there's no hope, no heroes, no point in fighting because everyone loses eventually." He looked directly at the 4 greater demons. "But you know what? You guys are just bullies. Really powerful bullies from a really messed up place, but bullies all the same." "Bullies," the Bloodthirster snarled. "We are gods." "No," Saitama said simply. "You're just monsters, and I punch monsters." He assumed his fighting stance, simple, unrefined, the posture of someone who'd never needed technique because strength alone solved every problem. "And I'm really, really good at it." The Bloodthirster attacked first. Subtlety was never Khorne's way. It moved with a speed that belied its massive form, reality-breaking velocity that transcended physical laws. The axe descended, wreathed in flames that could melt ceramite, capable of cleaving land raiders in half. It had killed Space Marine chapter masters, Eldar Phoenix lords, and heroes whose names were legend. Saitama caught it with 2 fingers. The demonic weapon, forged in the blood god's armory, empowered by 10,000 years of slaughter, stopped completely. The Bloodthirster's momentum carried it forward, but the axe refused to move. Saitama held it casually, like catching a child's toy. Serious sideways jumps. He moved. 20 afterimages appeared simultaneously as Saitama circled the Bloodthirster faster than demon perception could track. Each afterimage struck once, 20 punches delivered in the span of a single heartbeat from 20 different angles. The Bloodthirster's brass armor shattered, its demonic flesh cracked. It roared, not in pain. Khorne's demons feel no pain, but in frustrated rage at being outmatched. Saitama appeared behind it, still holding the axe. "This is yours, right?" He drove the weapon through the Bloodthirster's back, the demon's own axe piercing its brass heart. The greater demon screamed, a sound of pure rage that shattered windows in the forged city kilometers away, then exploded into crimson smoke, banished back to the warp. 1 down. The Lord of Change struck while Saitama was finishing the Bloodthirster, or rather, it struck through time. Xinqian's sorcery warped causality, making the spell hit before it was cast. Reality fractured around Saitama, physics becoming suggestions, probability turning hostile. Up became down. Gravity reversed. His molecules began separating from each other at the atomic level. Saitama looked mildly annoyed. Then he flexed. The sheer physical presence of his body, the impossible density of muscle, the limitless strength contained in human form, rejected the sorcery through brute force. Reality snapped back into place like an elastic band, and the backlash struck the Lord of Change like a hammer. The diamond shrieked, its ever-shifting form flickering between states as its own magic rebounded. Serious table flip. Saitama grabbed the ground, literally seized the rockcrete and reinforced foundation of the battlefield, and flipped it. Tons of material rotated upward, carrying the Lord of Change with it. The demon, still reeling from the magical backlash, couldn't escape before the improvised projectile carried it 300 meters into the air. Saitama jumped after it. At the apex of both their trajectories, he drew his fist back. Serious punch. The kinetic force didn't just destroy the Lord of Change. It scattered its essence so completely that reassembling would take centuries instead of days. The diamond's final thought translated across impossible dimensions to its master. This should not be possible. 2 down. The great unclean one and keeper of secrets attacked simultaneously, learning from their brother's failures. The Nurgle demons spread plagues with each breath, diseases that could kill space marines in seconds, rot that could consume cities. The Slaanesh demon moved with hypnotic grace, its claws carrying toxins that attacked the soul itself, its very presence designed to overwhelm mortal senses. Saitama landed and immediately charged the great unclean one. The demon laughed, genuinely delighted. "You cannot destroy what has already decayed. Grandfather's blessing makes me eternal." It exhaled, and the plague cloud engulfed Saitama completely. For 3 seconds, the hero disappeared in the miasma of disease. The great unclean one's laughter deepened, certain of victory. Then Saitama walked out of the plague cloud, completely unaffected, not even holding his breath. "That smelled really bad," he said. "You should see a doctor." "Impossible. Nothing resists." Consecutive normal punches. The great unclean one's blessing of immortality through decay meant nothing against force that simply destroyed matter faster than even chaos corruption could persist. Each punch liquefied portions of demonic flesh. The creature's regeneration struggled, failed, and then collapsed entirely as Saitama struck the demon's core, the spiritual anchor tying it to reality. The great unclean one dissolved into bubbling ichor, banished, 3 down. The keeper of secrets had been waiting for this moment. While Saitama fought the Nurgle demon, the Slaanesh horror had been weaving its most subtle enchantment. Not attacking his body, that clearly didn't work, but his mind. Saitama turned to face it and stopped. The keeper of secrets smiled. "You feel it now, don't you? The emptiness, the boredom, the endless search for meaning in strength that nothing can challenge." Its voice was honey and razor blades. "Slaanesh sees your suffering. Your power brings no joy. Your victories bring no satisfaction. You are strong beyond measure and utterly, completely alone in that strength." Saitama's expression didn't change, but he didn't move either. "Let me fill that void. Let me give your power purpose. In service to the Prince of Pleasure, every battle becomes ecstasy. Every victory brings sensation. You will never be bored again. You will feel everything." The enchantment deepened. Around them, reality warped to reflect Saitama's unconscious desires. Opponents that didn't die in one punch, battles that lasted more than seconds, fights that required actual effort. The temptation was crafted perfectly, targeting his deepest want. Saitama stood motionless for 10 full seconds. Then he spoke quietly. "You know, you're right. I am bored, and lonely, and tired of being so strong. Nothing matters." His fist clenched. "But I remember what the war boss said about joy, about fighting not for the sensation, but because it's right." He looked at the keeper of secrets, and his eyes were completely clear. "I'm not a hero because it feels good. I'm a hero because people need help. That's it. That's the whole reason." He assumed his stance. "And you're hurting people, so I'm going to punch you now." The keeper of secrets' smile faltered. "You resist? Even knowing your strength brings you no happiness?" "Yeah," Saitama said simply, "because that's what heroes do." Serious punch. The keeper of secrets tried to dodge, to seduce, to bargain. None of it mattered. The punch connected with force that shattered the demon's physical anchor and burned away the enchantment like morning fog. The Slaanesh horror screamed, not in pain but in genuine confusion that something could resist its master's greatest gift. Then it was gone, banished to the warp. 4 down. Saitama stood alone on the battlefield, surrounded by rapidly fading demonic essence. The warp rift above sealed itself with a sound like reality, sighing in relief. The sky returned to normal. Well, normal for a forge world, meaning polluted gray instead of screaming purple. Behind him, the remaining orcs were fleeing in full retreat, their wall broken by the death of their war boss and the demonic incursion. Ahead in the Forge City, millions of defenders watched in stunned silence as a single bald man in a yellow suit casually defeated threats that should have doomed their world. Saitama looked at his glove, checking for damage. Finding none, he shrugged and started walking toward the city. Above him, in the cold void of space, the Macrage's Honor had been watching. In the Strategium, Robout Gilliman stared at the tactical display, showing what should have been impossible. One human defeating 4 greater demons in single combat. "What is he?" one of the Ultramarines whispered. Gilliman was silent for a long moment. Then, "Either the Emperor's greatest miracle or the most dangerous anomaly the Imperium has ever encountered. Possibly both." He turned to his command staff. "Prepare a full honor guard. When he reaches the city, I want him escorted directly to this vessel. We need to understand what he represents, blessing or threat, before the wider Imperium learns of his existence." On the ground, Saitama finally reached the city gates. The defenders, Imperial Guard, Skitarii, PDF troopers, stared at him in awe and fear. An officer approached nervously, saluting. "My lord, the planet is saved. 80 billion citizens live because of your intervention. The officer struggled for words. "We owe you everything. Please, how may we serve you?" Saitama thought about this. "Do you guys have a supermarket?" The aftermath of Sovereign's fall spread through Imperial channels with terrifying speed. Astropathic messages, psychic communications sent through the warp by sanctioned psychers, carried the news across sectors. A single unaugmented human had defeated 100 million strong orc, Wah, and 4 greater demons simultaneously. The messages were garbled, contradictory, some insisting it was propaganda, others claiming it was the Emperor's will made manifest. The Inquisition's response was immediate and predictable: investigate, classify, and, if necessary, eliminate. 3 weeks after Sovereign's fall, Saitama found himself standing in a chamber aboard the Macrage's Honor, facing an assembly that could order entire star systems purged. Robout Guilliman sat at the head of the Strategium table, his expression unreadable. To his right, Inquisitor Volk represented the Ordo Malleus. To his left, a chaplain from the Ultramarines chapter represented the Ecclesiarchy's interests. Tech priests observed via hololithic display, their mechanical voices buzzing with theological debate about whether Saitama represented recovered STC technology or tech heresy. "You have become a problem," Guilliman said without preamble. "Not through malice or incompetence, but through sheer existence. Word of your actions has spread. Planets are beginning to worship you as a saint. Heretical cults claim you are the Emperor reborn. The Adeptus Ministorum debates whether you represent divine intervention or the greatest blasphemy in Imperial history." Saitama, who had been trying to figure out if the corpse starch rations actually contained corpses, looked up. "I just punched some monsters. You obliterated threats that have destroyed space marine companies," the chaplain interjected, his voice resonating with fury barely contained. "You exhibit power that should only belong to the Emperor's chosen. Yet you bear no genocide, no sanctioned augmetics, no blessing we can identify. You are either miracle or abomination, and the Imperium does not handle ambiguity well." "The question," Inquisitor Volk said quietly, "is what we do with you. Your power is undeniable. Your effectiveness in combat exceeds any asset the Imperium currently possesses. but you are uncontrolled, unvetted, and fundamentally incomprehensible to our theological and technical frameworks. You represent a variable that could save the Imperium or destroy it. I'm not trying to destroy anything, Saitama said. I'm just helping where I can while figuring out how to get home. That is precisely the problem. Guilliman leaned forward. You help where you can, according to your personal judgment. Without consulting Imperial command, without understanding strategic implications, without recognizing that your interventions create consequences beyond immediate victories. He activated the hololithic display. Sovereign's Fall appeared, now a world in chaos, not from orcs, but from religious fervor. 80 billion people live because of you. Excellent, but now they worship you. They build shrines. They declare you the Emperor's chosen. The ecclesiarchy considers this heresy. The planetary governor has lost control to priest kings claiming divine mandate through your actions. Within a year, Sovereign's Fall may require inquisitorial intervention to suppress heretical worship. Intervention that will kill millions of the people you saved. Saitama stared at the display, genuinely confused. I just saved them. Why would that cause problems? Because the Imperium is built on faith in the Emperor, the chaplain said harshly. Your existence challenges that faith. If a bald man in a yellow suit can do what the Emperor's angels of death struggled to achieve, what does that say about our theology? Are you proof the Emperor acts through unexpected vessels, or are you a test of faith we must overcome by rejecting false idols? The tech priest's hologram flickered. The Adeptus Mechanicus calculates a 73% probability that your existence will cause schisms within the ecclesiarchy, a 48% probability of localized civil wars over theological interpretation, and a 12% probability of chaos infiltration through cults claiming to worship you. Your combat effectiveness is undeniable. Your strategic cost may exceed your tactical value. Saitama put down the ration bar. For the first time since arriving in this galaxy, he looked genuinely troubled. So saving people is bad because it makes other people argue about theology? Welcome to the Imperium of Man, Guilliman said, voice heavy with exhaustion spanning 10 millennia. Where every solution creates 3 new problems, and the right choice is usually choosing which tragedy to permit. I do not say this to discourage you. Your intentions are admirable in ways this galaxy has forgotten. But you must understand, heroism at your scale has consequences you cannot punch away. Silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Saitama spoke. So what happens now? You're going to execute me because I'm inconvenient. Volk's hand moved fractionally toward his bolt pistol. That is one option under consideration. Threatening him is futile, Guilliman said. We tested his durability. Lascannons, plasma weapons, melta charges. Nothing harmed him. Executing him is not an option. Managing him is. The Primarch's eyes locked with Saitama's. I am offering you a choice. Join the Indomitus Crusade officially. Accept formal integration into Imperial command structure. Fight where we direct you. Operate under strategic oversight, and we will manage the theological and political fallout of your existence. You save worlds. We handle the consequences. And if I refuse, then you become an unsanctioned element operating in Imperial space. The Inquisition will classify you as a potential threat. You will be monitored, restricted, and eventually, when your presence causes sufficient instability, eliminated or contained. Not through force, since that has proven impossible, but through other means. Guilliman's expression hardened. We can make your existence very difficult without ever confronting you directly. Saitama considered this. So my options are, join your army and follow orders, or you make life annoying until I leave. Essentially, what if I just keep doing what I'm doing, showing up where people need help and punching monsters? Then you are a vigilante operating without Imperial sanction, the chaplain said. And the Imperium has dealt with vigilantes before. We burn them as heretics. The room tensed. Several hands moved toward weapons. Saitama noticed but didn't react. He'd learned that threats were constant background noise in this galaxy. Guilliman raised a hand, forestalling any violence. Before we reach that conclusion, answer me this. What do you actually want? Not get home. That may be impossible. What do you want from your time in this galaxy? Saitama was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weariness that transcended physical exhaustion. I want to matter. Back home, I was the strongest hero, but I was bored. Nothing challenged me. Every fight ended immediately. I was lonely because nobody could understand what it's like to be that strong. He looked at the assembled council. Here, I thought maybe things would be different. The war boss said this galaxy had opponents who could challenge me, battles that meant something. But instead, I'm causing problems just by existing and being told my strength is inconvenient. He stood, cape settling around his shoulders. You want me to join your crusade? Fine. I'll fight your wars. But I'm not doing it because you ordered me to. I'm doing it because this galaxy is full of people suffering, and I can help them. That's what heroes do. If that makes me inconvenient or heretical or whatever, that's your problem, not mine. The chaplain bristled. You dare. He dares because we cannot stop him, Guilliman interrupted quietly. And he is correct. We need him more than he needs us. The Imperium is losing on 1,000 fronts. His power, properly deployed, could shift the balance in dozens of critical sectors. The Primarch stood, towering over Saitama, yet somehow not diminishing him. Very well. You will operate under my direct authority. You answer to no one except me. The Inquisition will monitor but not interfere. The ecclesiarchy will manage theological implications. You will fight where the need is greatest, and I will ensure your actions do not destabilize the Imperium you seek to protect. That works, Saitama said. One condition, Guilliman added. You must understand that not every problem can be solved with strength. Some battles require politics, logistics, sacrifice. If I order you to stand down from an engagement because the strategic cost exceeds the tactical benefit, you will comply. Can you accept orders that contradict your heroic instincts? Saitama thought about Sovereign's fall, the religious chaos his victory had caused, the millions who might die in theological civil war because he'd saved 80 billion. He thought about worlds burning because the Imperium lacked resources to save everyone, about Guilliman's exhausted calculus of acceptable losses. I'll try, he said honestly, but if people are dying in front of me, I'm going to help them. That's not negotiable. Guilliman smiled slightly, the first genuine smile any of them had seen from him. Fair enough. Welcome to the Indomitus Crusade, Saitama. May the Emperor protect you, even if you do not believe in him. 6 months into officially joining the Indomitus Crusade, Saitama had fought across 17 worlds and killed enemies whose names would be recorded in Imperial history for millennia. He'd one-punched a hive tyrant leading a Tyranid splinter fleet, saving an agri-world that fed 3 billion citizens across neighboring systems. He destroyed a Chaos Titan, a cathedral-sized war machine corrupted by demonic possession, by simply jumping into its head and punching until the pilot's compartment exploded. He'd fought Necron constructs on a tomb world, discovering that ancient killer robots were surprisingly fun to fight because they rebuilt themselves, giving him actual extended battles that lasted more than seconds. He'd also learned the Imperium's deepest truth. Individual victories meant almost nothing against galaxy-scale collapse. The war map in Guilliman's Strategium told the story. For every world Saitama saved, 3 more fell. For every enemy he destroyed, 10 more appeared. The Great Rift continued expanding. Chaos incursions multiplied. Orc wars grew larger. Tyrannid hive fleets devoured entire subsectors. The Imperium wasn't losing because its warriors lacked strength. It was losing because the enemy operated on a scale that made individual heroism statistically irrelevant. Saitama stood before the tactical display, watching red markers multiply faster than green ones disappeared. Beside him, Guilliman reviewed casualty reports with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd been reading death counts for 10,000 years. Subsector Valdris has fallen, the Primarch reported without inflection. 8 worlds lost to chaos corruption. Estimated casualties, 43 billion. Contributing factors, insufficient fleet presence, delayed reinforcement, and my decision to deploy available forces to Sovereign's Fall instead. He looked at Saitama. Your victory saved 80 billion. My strategic choice killed 43 billion elsewhere. Net positive, 37 billion lives. This is how the Imperium calculates success. That's messed up, Saitama said. That is reality. Guilliman highlighted another sector. Orc Wa. Grimtooth has been building momentum for 3 months. Intelligence suggests it will reach critical mass, approximately 500 million greenskins, within 6 weeks. Multiple war bosses are converging, drawn by rumors of the strongest Humi, who killed war boss Skullcrusher at Sovereign's Fall. They are coming specifically to fight you. Saitama perked up slightly. Really? Do not sound so eager. A war of that magnitude will devastate everything in its path. Estimates suggest 15 worlds will burn before we can intercept them. 30 to 50 billion casualties. All because orcs heard about an opponent worth fighting and the WOG effect is amplifying their collective aggression. Guilliman's voice hardened. Your strength attracts enemies the way blood attracts sharks. You are simultaneously our greatest asset and a strategic liability. So what do you want me to do? What you do best. Meet them in battle and eliminate as many as possible. But understand, even if you personally kill 1 million orcs, millions more will survive to ravage Imperial territory. You cannot be everywhere at once. Saitama was quiet for a moment, staring at the tactical display's overwhelming complexity. In my world, being a hero was simple. See danger, punch danger, save people. Here. He gestured at the map. Here, saving people just creates different problems. Religious chaos, strategic complications, enemies showing up because they heard about me. Welcome to command, Guilliman said. Every choice carries cost. Every victory enables future tragedy. The burden of leadership is understanding you will fail far more than you succeed, and proceeding regardless because doing nothing guarantees total failure. He placed a massive armored hand on Saitama's shoulder, the first time the Primarch had made such a gesture. You asked if your strength matters in this galaxy. The answer is, individually, no. Collectively, yes. You cannot save the Imperium alone, but you can inspire others to fight harder, survive longer, believe for one more day that heroism still exists. That's a terrible answer, Saitama said, but it is the only honest one. Guilliman withdrew his hand. I have new orders for you. The Imperium Nihilus, the dark half of the galaxy cut off by the Great Rift, requires reinforcement. Communications are sporadic, warp travel is suicidal, and entire sectors report no contact for months. I am sending a reinforcement fleet through one of the few stable warp corridors. You will accompany them. What's out there? Nightmare beyond the Imperium's capacity to fully address. Demon worlds, chaos warbands operating without opposition, worlds that believe the Emperor has abandoned them because the Astronomican's light no longer reaches them. And the Silent King's Necron legions waking from millions of years of slumber. Guilliman's expression was grim. Also, reports suggest something worse. Whispers of a fifth Chaos God gestating in the warp, born from the Great Rift itself. Unconfirmed, possibly misinformation, but if true, it would represent an existential threat beyond anything the Imperium has faced. And you want me to punch a god? I want you to survive long enough to report what is actually happening in the Imperium Nihilus. Intelligence is our most critical shortage. If a nascent chaos god exists, we need to know before it fully manifests. Your unique resilience makes you the only asset likely to survive warp travel through the Great Rift and return with actionable intelligence. Saitama considered this. What about the people in Nihilus? The ones who think they're abandoned? They are abandoned, Guilliman said bluntly. We lack resources to properly defend the Imperium on this side of the rift. Supporting Nihilus is strategically impossible. They survive or die on their own. He paused. Unless someone provides them hope that the Imperium still fights for them. Your presence might accomplish that if you choose to help them rather than simply gather intelligence. You're asking me to save people you're officially abandoning? I am giving you permission to act according to your conscience in a region where Imperial doctrine does not reach. In Nihilus, there are no rules, no oversight, no consequences for violating protocol. You can be the hero you claim to be, unbound by strategic necessity or theological complications. Guilliman's voice softened fractionally. Or you can gather intelligence and return. Either way, you will see the Imperium's failure made manifest. You will understand why individual strength, no matter how great, drowns in the scale of our dying empire. Saitama looked at the map, at the vast swath of red-marked territory, labeled Imperium Nihilus. Hundreds of sectors, thousands of worlds, billions of people living in darkness, fighting without hope of reinforcement, slowly dying as chaos consumed everything. When do I leave? 3 days. Use them to rest. Where you are going, there will be no rest again. The day before departure, Saitama stood in the observation deck of the Macraga's Honor, watching stars that represented worlds burning in wars he couldn't prevent. Brother Sergeant Tarsus found him there. The Ultramarine's presence announced by the heavy tread of power armor. You seem troubled, Tarsus said, an unusual state for someone who defeats greater demons before breakfast. Just thinking, Saitama replied. Back home, I was the strongest hero. I could save anyone. Here, I'm strong, but it doesn't matter because there are too many threats in too many places. I can't be everywhere at once. So people die while I'm saving other people. It's like my strength is meaningless. Meaning is not measured in scope, Tarsus said quietly. To the 80 billion citizens of Sovereign's Fall, your strength was their salvation. To the agri-world saved from tyrannids, you are the reason their children will eat tomorrow. To the tomb world survivors, you are the miracle that ended ancient horror. The Space Marine removed his helmet, revealing the scarred, gene-enhanced face beneath. In the Imperium, we are taught that individual lives do not matter, only humanity's survival as a species. Perhaps that doctrine is what has broken us. Perhaps remembering that individual lives do matter, that each person saved is a victory, is what heroism truly means. That's surprisingly deep for someone who shoots things for a living, Saitama said. Tarsus allowed himself a slight smile. Space Marines are warriors, but we were also once human. Some of us remember what we fight for beyond strategic objectives. He offered a data slate. Lord Guilliman asked me to give you this. Coordinates for worlds in Imperium Nihilis that still transmit distress calls. Millions of people fighting impossible battles, begging for help that will never come. Saitama took the slate, scrolling through hundreds of locations marked as critical or lost cause or abandoned. He said you can choose where to go, Tarsus continued. Intelligence gathering or rescue operations, strategic value or personal conscience. The Primarch believes you will choose conscience over strategy. He respects that, even if he cannot afford to make such choices himself. What would you do? Saitama asked. I am a space marine. I follow orders and kill the Emperor's enemies. You are something else entirely. Perhaps something this galaxy needs more than it needs warriors. Tarsus replaced his helmet. The Emperor protects, they say, but sometimes I think the Emperor sends anomalies like you to remind us what protection actually means. After Tarsus left, Saitama studied the coordinates. Worlds dying in darkness. People fighting without hope. The same story repeating across thousands of systems, suffering on a scale that made his homeworld's worst disasters look trivial. He thought about the war boss's words, finding joy in strength. He thought about Guilliman's exhaustion, strategic calculation replacing heroic idealism. He thought about his own journey from bored hero to warrior in a galaxy where heroism was heresy unless sanctioned. Then he made his decision. He would go to the Imperium Nihilis. He would fight where the need was greatest, not where strategy dictated. He would save who he could, when he could, because that's what heroes did, even in a galaxy that had forgotten what heroes were. Somewhere in the warp, 4 vast intelligences watched this decision and made plans. The anomaly called Saitama was heading into darkness where their power was strongest, where corruption was inevitable, where even the mightiest souls eventually broke. They would be waiting. The warp corridor through the Great Rift was madness-made navigation route. Saitama stood in the observation deck of the Eternal Vigil, a frigate barely holding together, crewed by desperate volunteers willing to risk the impossible journey. Outside the Geller Field's protection, reality screamed. Demons pressed against the invisible barrier, their faces shifting between mockery and hunger. Colors that had no names writhed in the knot space between dimensions. Time flowed backward and forward simultaneously. He watched it all with the same expression he'd worn watching traffic back home. Mild disinterest mixed with patience. We're approaching translation point, the ship's navigator voxed, her 3-eyed vision barely maintaining course through the nightmare. Entering Imperium Nihilis in 30 seconds. May the Emperor protect us all. The ship lurched, reality inverted, and suddenly they were through. The observation port showed normal space, or what passed for normal in the galaxy's dark half. The stars were dimmer here, the void itself somehow heavier. And everywhere the signs of war, debris fields from dead fleets, burning worlds visible even from this distance, warp rifts that flickered open and closed like wounds that wouldn't heal. The navigator's voice crackled through the vox, exhausted. Translation successful. Welcome to the Imperium Nihilis. Scans show Emperor's Mercy. 17 distress calls in this sector alone. All critical, all unanswered. Saitama pulled on his gloves carefully, the gesture now ritual. Set course for the closest one. My lord, our orders were to establish a forward base, and the closest one, Saitama repeated. Someone needs help. That's where we're going. The crew exchanged glances. They'd been taught to follow Imperial doctrine, to calculate acceptable losses, to prioritize strategic value over individual lives. But something about this bald man in the ridiculous yellow suit made them want to believe heroism still meant something. Aye, my lord, the navigator said. plotting course for Atropos Prime. They report demon incursion overwhelming planetary defenses. Estimated time until complete corruption, 72 hours. Then we'd better hurry. As the eternal vigil accelerated toward the dying world, Saitama thought about everything he'd learned in this nightmare galaxy. The Imperium was brutal, corrupt, and dying. Heroism was complicated by politics and theology. Individual strength meant less here than back home, because the threats operated on a scale beyond individual solution. But none of that changed the fundamental truth. People needed help, and he could provide it. In the warp, the Chaos Gods watched him enter their stronghold, the dark half of the galaxy where their corruption ran deepest. They saw an anomaly, a threat, a prize to be claimed or destroyed. They began weaving plans spanning centuries, conspiracies within conspiracies, temptations designed specifically to break his simple heroism. They did not understand that simplicity was his strength, not his weakness. Saitama looked at his reflection in the observation port, a bald man in a cape, surrounded by the literal darkness of a galaxy at war. He thought about Gilliman's warning. Individual heroism couldn't save the Imperium. He thought about Tarsus's wisdom. Maybe remembering individuals matter was what the Imperium needed most. And he thought about the war boss's dying words, finding joy not in victory, but in fighting for the right reasons. Approaching Atropos Prime, the navigator announced, detecting massive demonic presence, defensive lines collapsing. They won't last another hour. Saitama walked toward the ship's drop bay, cape flowing behind him. Somewhere on that dying world, billions of people fought without hope, believing they'd been abandoned by the Imperium and Emperor, both. They were about to learn that sometimes heroes showed up anyway. The Imperium Nihilus was a nightmare realm where darkness reigned and chaos gods laughed at humanity's suffering. It was exactly the kind of place where an overpowered bald hero with a simple philosophy might make a difference, not through strategic genius or theological revelation, but through the ancient principle that monsters get punched and people get saved. And if the galaxy wanted to call that heresy, that was the galaxy's problem. Behind him, the crew of the Eternal Vigil watched their strange champion prepare for deployment. They didn't fully understand what he was or where he'd come from. But they understood this. For the first time in living memory, someone was going to fight, not because doctrine demanded it, not because strategy calculated acceptable losses, but simply because it was the right thing to do. In the grim darkness of the far future, there was only war. But now, in the darkest corner of that dying galaxy, there was also something the Imperium had almost forgotten. A hero. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. More stories await.